Today, we're diving into a really brutal story from the ancient world. It's a tale of civil war, a clever linguistic trap, and a single password that literally meant the difference between life and death. And the craziest part? This conflict, from thousands of years ago, has left a permanent mark on the way we speak today. So here's the big, shocking question at the heart of it all. I mean, it sounds impossible, right? But as you're about to see, a single word, or more accurately, just the inability to say it the right way, well, that became the trigger for an absolutely horrific massacre. And this is the word, right here, Shibboleth. Or, if you were one of the unlucky ones, Sibboleth. Just think about that. The tiny difference between that sh sound and an s sound. That was everything. This simple little pronunciation test was the weapon. It was the tool they used to figure out who lived and who died in this incredibly violent conflict. Okay, so how on earth did it come to this? I mean, a deadly password test doesn't just appear out of nowhere, right? It was actually the climax of a really bitter feud between two tribes. One that had been simmering for a while, just bubbling under the surface, all rooted in pride and, you guessed it, resentment. So the whole conflict really boils down to this. On one side, you've got the tribe of Ephraim, and they are furious with a military leader named Jephthah. They feel totally disrespected, like they were left out of a huge battle, and they're so angry they threaten to burn his house down. But Jephthah's defense is just as blunt. He's like, hey, I did call you, but you didn't show up, so we handled it ourselves, and we won. You can just feel the tension, can't you? It's a classic case of pride, maybe some miscommunication, and things just spiraling out of control. And yeah, those weren't just empty threats. Jephthah took them very, very seriously. He gathered his forces, the men of Gilead, and that simmering feud we talked about, it just boiled over. We're talking full-scale civil war now. And in the end, the Gileadites won, defeating the army of Ephraim in battle. But winning the battle? That wasn't enough for Jephthah and the Gileadites. Oh no, what came next was this cold, calculated strategy. The goal was to make absolutely sure that not a single survivor from the defeated Ephraimite army could escape. And this, right here, is where we get back to that deadly password, Shubad. Their plan was, well, it was brutal, but it was incredibly effective. You see, the Jordan River was the natural border between their territories. So the Gileadites went and seized control of the fords. Those are the shallow spots where you can actually walk across the river. By doing that, they set a perfect trap, completely cutting off the only way home for any of the fleeing Ephraimite soldiers. And here's exactly how the trap worked, step by step. Picture this. A terrified survivor finally makes it to the river, desperate to get across to safety. The Gileadite guards stop him. They ask, "Are you an Ephraimite?" Of course, what's he going to say? He says no. But then comes the real test. They say, all right, say Shibboleth. Now, the word itself probably means something like stream or ear of grain, but that didn't matter at all. The only thing that mattered was a little quirk in their regional dialect. Apparently, the Ephraimites just couldn't make that sh sound. So the moment he said Sibboleth, his own accent gave him away, and the sentence was carried out right then and there. So this systematic, you could almost call it linguistic profiling, it had a just devastating and truly horrific result. The cost of this one battle and what happened after, it was just immense. 42,000. Just let that number sink in for a second. 42,000 people. That's how many Ephraimites were reportedly killed right there at the fords of the Jordan. 42,000 men, identified and then executed, all because of how they pronounced a single word. It's an absolutely staggering number, especially when you remember this whole thing started as an argument over who got credit for winning a battle. And what about the man behind it all, Jephthah? Well, after this incredibly bloody civil war, he led Israel for only 6 years before he died. It was a pretty short reign, and one that would of course be forever defined by this one brutal event. Now, after Jephthah's death, the leadership in Israel seems to take a really sharp turn. The whole era that came next wasn't marked by war and slaughter, not at all. It was defined by something, well, something much more peaceful. Just take a look at this. The leaders, or judges, who came after Jephthah, guys named Ibzan, Elon, and Abdon, they're remembered for completely different things. Their stories aren't about battles. They're all about family and wealth. I mean, Ibzan had 60 kids. Abdon had 40 sons, 30 grandsons, and 70 donkeys. which back then was a huge sign of prosperity. It's such a striking contrast to Jephthah's violent legacy, right? It really suggests a time of stability and peace had finally arrived. Okay, so why are we talking about this ancient, frankly gruesome story today? Well, because like I said at the very beginning, its impact has echoed down through thousands of years and landed smack dab in our modern vocabulary. The word shibboleth is an actual word in English now, and it's directly because of this story. Today, it means any kind of custom or belief or even just a phrase that distinguishes one group of people from another. You can think of it like a linguistic password that signals you're an insider, or it marks you as an outsider. It could be anything, the way you pronounce a word, a piece of slang you use, or even just an opinion you hold. And that really leaves us with a final thought to chew on. The original shibboleth was used with deadly results, but the basic idea behind it, it's still very much alive. So think about it for a minute. What are the subtle signals we use today, things in our language or the way we dress or the things we believe, that we use to identify us versus them? What are the passwords for belonging in our world right now?